Hello, I'm Roy Hadley. I am with the law firm of Adams and Reese in the privacy, cybersecurity, and data management practice team. I'm also the chair of the board of the Information Security Society for the Technology Association of Georgia. Today, we're starting off a new thing for TAG called Cyber Shorts, and we have the privilege of having my very good friend Patrick Gaul with us. Patrick is the executive director of the National Technology Security Coalition. And in that capacity, Patrick is at the forefront of helping cybersecurity become part of the national discussion. Patrick, welcome to Cyber Shorts.
Thank you, and good morning, Roy. I'm delighted to be here.
Oh, pleasure's ours. So, Patrick, NTSC, executive director, what do you do at the NTSC and what does the NTSC do?
So we could probably spend the next several hours talking about what I do, but let me narrow it down. Essentially, my role is to be the voice of the Chief Information Security Officer in Washington, D.C. That means taking our board of directors, which is comprised of Chief Information Security Officers from enterprise companies across the nation, checking the pulse. What do they see as important? What are their policy priorities? And then working on the Hill with our congressional leaders to make sure those are understood, and wherever possible, trying to influence legislation so that it's beneficial to the Chief Information Security Officer.
Nice. Now, how long has the NTSC been in existence, and you've been working with it?
So the NTSC was established in early 2016 by the Technology Association of Georgia. The board of directors of TAG wanted to establish an organization within Georgia that had a national identity. And there's a lot of research that went into how we ended up on focusing on policy on the Hill, but that's essentially where they landed. Through my background, having been on the board of TAG for 10 years, that's how I got involved with this initiative. And then in August of 2016, I accepted the role of executive director.
Fantastic. Now, Patrick, I know you very well, and I know you've had a great background. I know you served in the military for a while. Question for you. If you weren't the executive director of NTSC, what would you be doing? What would be your dream job?
Well, I think, essentially I would be semi-retired. I would be doing a lot of reading, and I would be writing that novel that's been in my head for the last 10 years. Um, Something I really want to do, and something I hope to do before my time on this earth ends. Because as you pointed out, I have been very blessed with having had a career that spanned the globe, having lived in Japan and the UK and Amsterdam and Brussels, and having served 9 years in the Marines, including a tour in Vietnam. So I think I've got a great story to tell. I just got to sit down and do it.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. So, question for you. If you weren't living here in Georgia, in Atlanta, in the Atlanta area, all those places in the world that you have lived, that you've visited, where would you live? What's your favorite place?
I think the answer is driven by the fact that my wife is British
Okay.
and would love to go home. So we would be living in the West Midlands of England. That's about a little over 2 hours north of London, just on the other side of Birmingham. And it's the countryside, but it's populated with lots of wonderful pubs and great food. So that's probably where we would hang our hats.
Okay. In addition to writing your novel, which we're going to hold you to here over the next few years, what else makes you tick? What else do you enjoy doing?
So I love to read. It's just a passion of mine, especially history. I just finished Joseph Ellis's new book, Revolutionary Summer, which talks about the period between Bunker Hill and the Declaration of Independence. A very narrow period, but a lot of things happened during that period. I love to examine that. I love to cook. I had the great honor of going to the Manor of the Four Seasons, their advanced cooking courses. Spent a year doing that. And I love music, especially music on vinyl. I have a great collection of albums dating back, some of them over 40 years. It was a real chore to keep the kids away from them when they were young. And now my 24-year-old son understands why I made him behave the way he behaves, and has to wash an album, play it, wash it before he puts it away. But if you take care of vinyl, it'll last forever.
All right. So, favorite vinyl album. What's your favorite album? Everybody has one that you just look at. It is the pride and joy. It is the treasure. What's yours?
Kind of Blue, Miles Davis.
Miles Davis, one of my favorites. Great.
Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic. All
I
right.
play that probably once a week.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah.
And you play the vinyl once a week?
Oh yeah, yeah. At least. I mean, if you and like I said, if you have a good turntable and you take care of it, vinyl will last forever.
Very nice. All right. So you mentioned cooking. You mentioned, Four Seasons. What is Patrick's go-to dish? What's your signature dish? If you were inviting me over and you wanted to make a great impression, which I'm sure you would, what would be the dish?
Oh, I think a shoulder of lamb and a red wine rosemary uh, sauce would be the main course, and then we'd surround that with all sorts of roasted vegetables, and I'd probably do a tart tartine, for dessert, a little whipped cream that I make from start. Yeah, so that's my if I want to impress someone with the right kind of wine, that's my go-to dish. Most people here in this country are not as enamored with lamb as the British are, but during my time in the UK, which was almost 8 years, I became fascinated with lamb and learned how to cook it in a lot of different ways.
Wow. All right. So once this COVID thing blows over, probably 2021, the way it's looking, I'll be expecting that invitation. So I'll bring the wine. All right. So let's pivot back to business here for a second. Let's pivot back to cybersecurity. Uh, you know, what keeps you up at night? What do you worry about as the executive director of the NTSC, other than the operations of the NTSC, but from a pure cybersecurity standpoint, what keeps you up at night?
I was thinking about that question the other day, and I don't want to be punting on it, but it really depends on the day and the issues that arise. I mean, late last week and through the weekend, we were having a serious discussion about the most recent efforts by certain legislators around encryption, the legislation that Lindsey Graham introduced. That's very concerning to my community, but the CISO community. But that community is almost as conflicted as the rest of the nation when you sit down and try and figure out what your position is. Should we have back doors? Should we never weaken the math? We have members who have three-letter acronyms in their work history who have a certain perspective, and we have others who have different perspectives. And if you look at the whole nation, that's a key issue. Workforce development is a big policy issue for us. We have a critical issue around diversity in our workforce. Something like 22% of all cyber employees are women. Only like less than 7% of all CISO women. And when you go minorities, those numbers drop dramatically. So, trying to figure out how we can address that as a community. What are the root cause issues? And, we don't have enough time to go all the way into it, but I promise you it goes all the way back to middle school and how girls are encouraged or not encouraged to study math.
Right. And I know that's a huge issue here in Georgia and in Atlanta, where we have a very robust cybersecurity community, with all the institutions and all the companies that are here, both the large companies and the tech community. We still have that issue. What is there a solution to it? Are there steps we should be taking other than encouraging young kids early on?
No, I think that you got to go back to that. I think that's where it starts. Um, and I recently had a chance to present to a large group of women, talking about this issue, and even the women on that uh, conference that I was on, virtual conference, were talking about the experiences of their daughters in school. You know, one woman had a daughter who was in advanced calculus in high school. You know, and she was one of only two women and a young woman in a room of 25 people. Um, and what happens is, because they don't get the rigors of math early on, if they elect to follow a STEM program in college, they're not ready for the rigors of STEM in college. They're just not ready. And there's a study that says something like 66% of all young women drop out of STEM programs, not out of college, but out of a STEM curriculum within the first 18 months of entering college. That's a
Wow.
huge number, and we need to fix that. And so, yeah, it goes back to making sure that we encourage young women in middle school to take math, study math. We embrace that. And Roy, it's a fact that many times they're discouraged from doing that. We also have to look at how many teachers are really qualified to teach. And then, you know, things like we've done in Georgia, where you can now take coding or computer sciences classes instead of foreign language classes. It would be the same as taking a foreign language class if you take a coding class. That's spreading across the country. Those things are good to get people exposed to you know, coding and computer sciences early on. Um, so yeah, it's a systemic problem, and it goes all the way back. I was just talking to Mark Montgomery, he's executive director of the Solarium Commission, about this earlier this year, and it's something they point to in the Solarium Commission report, which I encourage everyone to read if you haven't, or at least read the executive summary. But it's broken down into six pillars, and workforce development is one of those. And I would encourage everybody to read that section on that pillar.
Fantastic. It is a great report. I've read it, and fantastic thoughts and information in there. So I echo your thoughts of encouraging everyone to read that report, or like you say, at least the executive summary. One last question for you, Patrick. And, I think we would be remiss, we're doing this via video because of the current COVID situation, instead of doing it in person. From a cybersecurity perspective, for your organization and those that you represent, the CISOs of the world, what, if anything, if you could pick one thing, what has been the greatest challenge for them from a cybersecurity perspective in navigating this current COVID crisis, which looks like here in the United States anyway, is still potentially on the upward trend?
I think the proliferation of attacks against home workers right now, we're seeing that significantly increase. You know, I'm talking to chief information security officers, who have gone from, very few people working at home to suddenly you have 22,000 people working from home. And how do you address that? How do you make sure everybody's secure? Everybody's protecting their passwords. Everybody has a secure solution, in terms of the routers. There's a lot of concerns around that. I think that's a big issue for everyone right now. Ransomware continues to be a major concern. And then just, it's, the, I've been privileged to work with some of the brightest people I've ever had the pleasure of meeting over the last 4 years. And, every day they wake up, they've got to make risk decisions, decisions based on risk, and they have to get it right every single day. Whereas the adversary only has to get it right once, and they're very patient, the adversary. So, yeah, I think that right now, I think top of mind is making sure everybody's secure at home as we continue to traverse COVID-19.
Fantastic. Patrick, it's been a pleasure. Great information. We could go on for hours here, but these are cyber shorts, so I think we'll call it. If you could just tell us where people can find more information about NTSC, that would be great. And again, thank you very much for being here.
So you can go to ntsc.org, and all of my contact details are there. And if you would like to know more about the NTSC, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to talk to you. And Roy, thank you for having me today. I've enjoyed it very much.
Pleasure's mine. Take care.